Igbo presidency 2023 will stop us. What we want is BIAFRA, and what we're going to get is BIAFRA.
Declare no election, no 2023 general election in Biafra land. This no election in Biafra land has been activated. We are going to make it a task that must be done by every Biafran. All measures will be put in place to make sure the adequate civil disobedience is implemented to stop the election in Biafra land.
Fortunately, we don't reason like that. Anybody thinking that Igbo presidency 2023 will stop us? What we want is BIAFRA, and what we're going to get is BIAFRA.
Hello, Biafrans, lovers of freedom, good people of our land, people all over the nations of the world who actually are desirous of good life, equity, justice, conscience, good conscience, fairness, and the promotion of fundamental human rights. Everyone all over the world, be you fair-colored or brown-colored skinned or whatever, no matter your identity, as much as you are a lover of freedom, I want to welcome you to this special broadcast, and I want to say that you are special to every one of us who actually desire freedom. And also for those people who actually don't desire freedom, those who hate us, those who fight us, those who are enemies, we also welcome you to listen so that you can receive your freedom and deliverance too. Because our fundamental purpose as a people is to see that we are able to cause the deliverance of not just us, but of every nation all over the world that is part of this bondage that we have found ourselves. Today is the 7th of October 2022. Today is Friday, the last working day of the week. Today, of course, also signalizes the honor of Biafrans killed in Asaba. Now, when we talk about Asaba, we're actually using Asaba as a means of, representing all the people who have been killed all over Biafra land and elsewhere because of the issue of Biafra. Biafra is meant to be a fundamental template for universal freedom. That is why Biafra is very important and crucial to us. That is why we are actually doing what we are doing, so that we can actually have freedom. And for this cause, I am here broadcasting to you today on the auspices of the autopilot mode, which Mazi Namdekan have set, with Mazi Simon Ekpa spearheading and being the spokesperson of Biafra, spearheading the whole process. I want to welcome you to this live broadcast. My name is Kelechi Ambrose, and of course, this is Biafra Global Network. Biafra Global Network. Please, I want you to subscribe to this channel and also share this video and like this video and share to all your social media platforms, so that people can always have this information and this news, and people will be able to come together factually to actually do the things we need to do, and at the same time go along the line of what we all believe in, the freedom of our people. Freedom is a fundamental product for global success and the success of the people. If you lack freedom, if you don't find freedom, you are actually not going to succeed. The reason why we have not been able to succeed is because we are trapped in a human design created by the British. Anytime the human beings begin to determine your destiny, no human being will want to give you a course for you to actually fulfill your destiny, because every human being wants to lock you up on the confines of their own dictates, so that they can monitor and program your success, and then make sure that your success does not actually supersede their success. That is why the British design of Nigeria which is designed under the concept of a company for the product as a product to benefit the British Empire and those ones they're going to use as proxies, like the Fulanis and the the politicians from every other nation that is kept under the auspices of the Nigeria contraption. The reason why they do that is for the benefit of these people, because the first thing that a slave master thinks of is his own benefits. He doesn't think of you. So you must understand that fundamentally, the slave masters are always thinking of how they're going to benefit. In fact, there's no time they ever consider you as having a benefit. All they want you to do is that they want to give you health, so that you can be alive to actually promote their their intentions, promote their profit, promote everything they stand for. So the reason why Britain brought us together is not because they want us to be successful, but because they want us to continue while be under a trap or a contraption that will promote their interest and give them what they want to get. And for that to happen, they also are promoting the Fulani Caliphate, so that the Fulani Caliphate can conquer Biafra land, conquer indigenous people, and take over their land. Because if the Fulani is in charge, they are sure of certain returns that will benefit them. Britain has been a nation that steals, plunders, and take from other people. They don't have the capacity to actually grow their own nation. They don't have the capacity to actually create wealth for themselves. They thrive in stealing properties and investments and businesses of other people and the resources of other nations. That is what they thrive to do. That is how they succeed. And that is how they've been living all these years. And that is why America broke away from them. Other nations also sought their independence, and today Biafra is seeking its own independence. In spite of the killings of Biafrans, every killing that has happened in Biafra land has been, whether in Biafra land or outside Biafra land, has been because of the resources of Biafra. So the fundamental subject is the resources of Biafra. If you look at the war issue also, you discover that it actually talked about the resources of Biafra. The reason why they were fighting is to protect their interest, to protect their oil installation, because that is where their interest is. So they saw the Biafra people as restrictions or as setbacks to this. So anybody who stands their way, they are ready to import and bring weapons to kill, to maim. And of course, as my guest said yesterday, Prince Ism, he said something critical. He said that we have become lesser than animals. And of course, this confirms what I preached about 3 weeks ago or so, 4 weeks ago on this platform, where I talked about those supporting one Nigeria as less than ants. In fact, Prince Ezem talked about Prince Ezem talked about being animals, and of course he now projected it forth and forward to make sure that we understand it better. He now says we are even behaving less than animals, because the things that animals can't do is what we do. And we do these things based on the fact that we are less than animals. Because at the level of even an animal, you are sane, because you will not think of killing your other. Animals preserve their own people. They can fight and all of that, but they preserve their own. But people who behave less than animal kill their own. A lion will not kill its own. It will only kill a prey or something that threatens their collective interest. So we being animals and less than animals, we kill even humans. We kill humans. So these are fundamental facts, and I'm going to be saying so much on all of these as we progress in this broadcast. But first, I want to play what Mazin Nnamdi Kanu said about no election in Biafra land. Now, the reason why we are remembering the Asaba killing is because it was significant to the Civil War. This happened in October 5th to 7th of October 1968, where people were gruesomely killed. And the irony about this whole thing is that these guys were shouting one Nigeria. These guys were actually promoting one Nigeria. Good afternoon, Mrs. Moran Hanks. Thanks for joining me. Good to have you here at all times. Good to also have you also, because you're doing great. You are one of those who is pushing, for these words and these messages to go far and wide. Thank you so much for being there for us at all times and being there for me too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Now I'm going to play the voice of Mazin Nnamdi Kanu regarding election. He said there will be no election in Biafra land. So whatever Mazik Samanepa is doing right now is in line with what Mazin Nnamdi Kanu wanted. And that is why those people who were shouting, he said, in that place, who were enemies of the thing, had to go all out to sell Mazin Nnamdi Kanu, because they know his intention, they know he's ready to do what he has to do, and he's actually out for the true and redemption of Biafra. Listen to this.
Fortunately, we don't reason like that. Anybody thinking that Igbo presidency 2023 will stop us? What we want is Biafra, and what we're going to get is Biafra.
Yes, welcome back. Now, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the prophet of our time and the savior of Biafra people, under the auspices of God Almighty. He's not God Almighty, he's just used as an instrument to save the people. Now, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu said in that video, he said that anybody who thinks that 2023 will stop what we are doing, may God destroy that person. Now, that is a curse laid on anybody who is actually supporting any politician to destroy what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu said here. So which means that everyone, who is talking about election, who is talking about the details of all of these things, the contraption continuing in the auspices of election, is actually under a curse, because the one whom God has ordained, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, has actually placed a curse. God is going to destroy that person. God will consume that person with fire. That's what he said. So he has said it. British and Fulani can't stop our freedom. Yes, British and French are the same. Yes, the French and the British are the same. They all have the same mandate. The French are actually creating lots of chaos in in the system and in the structure of the African fabric. So they are fundamentally enemies to us. And of course, we all recognize all of that, and so we're fighting all of that. So the issue of our freedom is certain, and the issue of no election in Biafra land has been sealed. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu said it, and this is what Mazi Simon Ekpa is promoting. That means that Mazi Simon Ekpa is in line with what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is saying. That means what Mazi Simon Ekpa is doing is right and just. Nobody can fault it, because this is what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu represents. So if Mazi Nnamdi Kanu represents that, it simply means that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, is actually in line with what Mazi Simon Ekpa is saying, and that means Mazi Simon Ekpa is actually doing the work of his master as a disciple of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So when you hear other people talking about election, those who are going to support election, those who are going after election, just know that they are actually doing their own bidding. They are outside the dictates and the intention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That simply tells you that they actually went together collectively to sell him, so that they'll be able to stop this thing we're doing and stop the mandate of redemption. But that they cannot do, because the spirit is in control. The spirit of Biafra is in control, and that is actually what is on. So today we're going to be looking at the horror. Today we're looking at the Asaba massacre and the issues surrounding it. And these are basic things that I want to talk about today. And of course, I want to look at it in that regard. And of course, we played some videos. I'm going to play some video here that will actually help us to analyze these things. Now, if you remember the last time I did the part 3, the part 2, and part 1, I actually played a particular video that projected the Biafra war entirely. It involves both the Asaba massacre and the massacre all over the contraption and outside the contraption. So this issue of the war video represents everything that has to do with a massacre. Even if we are using the Asaba massacre as a pointer to what we are looking at. And this is basic. And I want you to know that the reason why we are doing these things is for us to continually refresh our minds and continuously refresh our senses, to look at these facts and not to forget them, so that they can project us and they can help us to keep making decisions that are in line with our purpose. If my fathers, your fathers, our parents, our brothers, our sisters were killed gruesomely by a system that wants to enslave us, then it would be an error for us to think that we can promote that platform to actually get what we want to get. There's no way you can promote election, promote Fulani plan and template, and think that you can still have things work for you. For instance, the people who were killed in Asaba and even other places that people have been killed actually were screaming one Nigeria. It's shocking and amazing to know this. Now I'm going to play. Of course, you have seen the video played by Mazi Simon Ekpa. You have seen the video we played in the joint broadcast, on Friday, on Monday, also in the joint broadcast when we had the joint IPOB media team broadcast. You saw the video. We actually took the video of the Asaba massacre. It showed them talking about one Nigeria, and yet they were rounded and they were killed because they don't regard you as someone who is supposed to be part of them. They see you as someone who should die so that they can take what belongs to you. Now, the most biggest error and the fundamental mystery about this error is that some people are still holding on to that thing that have killed them. Common sense tells you that when you are under danger or you are in danger, even international law says it and all of that, you have the right to self-defense. The self-defense matter here has to do with referendum, because referendum is a product of self-defense against an election that endorses your killing. Referendum is a matter of self-defense that stops or is against that construct, that Nigeria contraption being sustained by an election of appointing people who are rulers over you every 4 years so that they can sustain that contraption of a business empire called Nigeria that will always come after you and kill you. So common sense means that what you need to do is choose referendum over this, because referendum will actually help you to build a platform of your own, of your sovereignty, so that you can operate in the dictates of freedom, and then you can actually conduct election that is worth it. So if you look at these things in this manner, you will understand why we are screaming no election in Biafra land. Because election in Biafra land is a template of the Fulani construct, which is promoted by the British. And that election is meant to install the same procedure or the same pattern or the same template that have been killing you, that have been killing us. So if we want to save ourselves from being killed or from being maimed or from continuous subjugation or from hunger or from slavery or from the situation of Fulanis killing us and cutting our necks, we must first of all free ourselves from their grip, from their tentacles. It is at that point of freedom that you can now understand how useful election can be. Because on the template of freedom, election becomes a sacrosanct material for functionality, progress, development, and growth. So if you want to achieve this, you must understand the context of referendum. You must understand the place of referendum. Now I'm going to play this video again. Please, I want you to take your time to listen to it, because the video is about 9 minutes. So I want you to take your time to listen to the dictates. Now, first of all, there are things I want you to identify in this video I'm going to play. I played it last time, but I want you to play it. I want to play it again for those people who actually were not here last time, or those people who actually didn't really get the details of that video. I want to play it again. Now, I want you to take cognizance of these facts. One, they identified all Biafrans as Igbos. That was why I told you that the name Igbo represents our source. We are from Eri. Every one of us came from a source, a particular source, and we are indigenous to that source. So that makes us Igbos. But now, as Igbos, we have a nationality which we all agree on, which is the nationality of Biafra. So we are Biafrans as much as we are Igbos. So by nation and identity, we are Biafrans. By origin and source, we are Igbos. So whether you are a Ijaw or whoever you are, you know your source. Your source is that you are Igbo, even if you are a part of the nation of Biafra. Because in Biafra, we now begin to talk about Ijaw. In Biafra, we now begin to talk about Shekiri. In Biafra, we now begin to talk about Idoma. In Biafra, we begin to talk about Anam. In Biafra, we begin to talk about of course, you still the same word, of course, for it, for those ones who are in the coastal region and all those people all over the place, and all of that. So in Biafra now, we begin to spell out our communities, our tribes. But in the real sense of our source, we are Igbos. But in the name Biafra as a nation, we begin to spell our tribes, our communities. Like if I am from the Imo State, I have my community, I have where I come from. So that is defined in the context of being a Biafran. But being an Igbo, we are all equal. We are all one from one source. And from the nation, we identify our oneness in our traditions, in our communities and tribes. Our oneness is defined by identifying our tribes and traditions under the auspices of the name Biafra. But our togetherness and oneness is singular in the sense of the nation Biafra and the sense of the name Igbo. So you must understand this so that you don't get yourself carried away by the divide and rule tactics. These people who are dividing and ruling us actually identify us as Igbos. They know who we are, but they try to put us in that illusion and in that mirage of separation. in that mirage of difference, so that we can continue to fight ourselves. That is why people in Ijaw will say that Ijaw, they don't want to become, people like we here will come and say we are not Igbos, we are not this and all of that, because this is what these colonial masters and these, and Westerners want us to believe, so that we keep fighting ourselves. But we thank God that God is bringing us together, and we begin to understand the fundamental nature of who we are and the people that we are, so that we can actually do the right things and the things we need to do. So now listen to this video. It's going to stay for about 9 minutes. I don't want to interrupt it, so that you can get the details. 1, they identify us as Igbos. 2, they identify the reason why Britain killed us. That is our resources. 3, they identify how Britain takes us. They don't value us as human beings, because if they value us as human beings, they will not want to kill us. So for them to be able to kill us, they want and to take over our resources. For them to be able to take over our resources, they don't need to value us as human beings. The only way they will be able to take over our resources is to see us as less than who they are, less than human beings, so that they will be able to kill us, and then they will be able to take over. Now, another thing I want you to identify, that the Biafra War now also sets a template in the world. We now have something that is called media famine. Media famine, where you now have the first set of hunger and starvation all over the nations of the world on the media platform. It was devastating, it was destructive, and of course in this video also we can recognize that it was a genocide against Biafrans. Please listen to this video as I play it, so that you will be able to understand. Please take your time to listen to it. I will let it flow from beginning, and then we'll begin to analyze it as it goes. So please, I won't interrupt, so that you will understand the details, so that you will know why we are fighting. Importantly, we have to know why we're fighting. 2, we have to know what we actually misrepresented as ourselves, because the difference and the things we didn't know actually are the things that made us fight ourselves for the destruction that we actually achieved, or we got, the destructions we got based on the fact that we actually supported the evil Britain, ignorantly, some of us intentionally, to destroy ourselves. So listen to this video so that you can get these things right.
When you look at the facts, that something around 1 million people perished as a result of the actions of the British and Russian and Nigerian federal governments. I don't know what one does call it, but it was pretty close to genocide.
It was the first of the genocidal wars that a great power got as close to as Britain got to the war in Biafra.
And that was totally wrong.
And that was wrong.
Over 1 million Igbos, Biafrans, all British Commonwealth citizens, died in the Nigeria-Biafra civil war. Today, more than 30 years later, questions remain. Was it genocide? Was it backed by the British government, willingly or unwillingly?
If you have part of the population, or as I say, the whole population being wiped out and murdered without any protection on these grounds, ethnic or religious or economic grounds and so on, you have genocide.
The Nigeria-Biafra civil war was also the first media famine. For the first time we saw starving children in newspapers, in magazines and on television.
Well, it was very much the sort of headline news in the papers here for a long time, and opinion was greatly divided as between those who felt that that the Igbos had a case and that Nigeria was badly governed and that it was time that something happened and that the Igbos were good people who deserved to be, and others who felt that Nigeria should remain as it was and the boundaries should remain, and if you fiddled about with the boundaries you were going to be in real difficulty, and it was a very bad precedent for other parts of Africa.
Nigeria, the richest and most populous nation in Africa. 360,000 square miles the same size as Britain, France and Germany. 65 million people, 3 major tribes, Hausas in the north, Yorubas in the west, Igbos, Biafrans in the east. Some say the British rigged the odds against the Igbos from the beginning, from even before independence.
Of course, we also knew that the elections by 1960 had been rigged. Everybody in the know knew that we had our boys in the north, our puppets, we'd put them in power. They hadn't won at all. The people in the south had won, the nationalists.
Some say war was inevitable. The rest of Nigeria had always been jealous of the unity, the strength of the Igbos, the way they had managed to march together to build a better future for themselves and their children. In 1966, the world's attention was focused on Eastern Europe and the brutal Russian invasion of Czechoslovakia. The Middle East, the continuing conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians, Southeast Asia, the American war in Vietnam and all its horrors. But throughout Nigeria, up to 30,000 Igbos were being attacked and brutally murdered because they were Igbos.
It's those who want us to lose the war in Vietnam. It's militants, activists, revolutionaries, anarchists, and communists. That's who it is.
To the international community, it was just another African conflict. They didn't want to get involved. It was no concern of theirs. They looked the other way. They had other things on their plate.
I would say that there is a difference between when a man belonging to a rich country dies and when a man belonging to a poor country dies. Not necessarily black men, because you can have the same problem somewhere in Asia. No, I believe that the United Nations, the international community, is still dominated by a very Europocentric attitude.
Tuesday, May 30, 1967. Enough was enough. The Igbos, alone, isolated, ignored, declared their independence. Their leader was Lieutenant Colonel Ojukwu. The supreme commander and head of the military regime in Nigeria was Lieutenant Colonel Gowan. Both men had been educated and trained in Britain. The war that followed was one of the longest, bloodiest and most disastrously fought civil wars in history. In just 3 years, they used more small arms ammunition than was used by British forces during the whole of the Second World War. The casualties were horrifying. The war was also unlike any other civil war in modern history. The Nigerian government, backed by the British, regularly and deliberately strafed and bombed civilian targets.
I saw 10 deliberate bombing attacks on the civilian population, either hospitals or marketplaces, and with no question of any military target being in the vicinity.
At precisely 1:30 every day, they come over the town as the marketplace is full, as patients are sitting out on the lawns at hospitals. Here comes the next one. He's just above the mission now.
I looked up and I heard the explosion. The convent was still there, but then towards the school there was a cloud of smoke rising up to the sky.
The children's ward was the worst. Children's ward got a rocket right through the roof. There was a mother and child killed in bed, and another child was killed in another ward, and another child was cut in half up behind the kitchen.
While it was deliberate, they finished an operation. The next 3 hours, they come back again. So you could see that kind of thing for 3 days or 4 days.
Even more horrifying, the Nigerian government deliberately used famine as a weapon of war. The name Harold Wilson became a curse. Starvation was known as the Harold Wilson syndrome. Many people, young and old, rich and poor, went to Biafra to help the starving and the dying. One of the youngest, the most famous, the most glamorous was Princess Cecile de Bourbon-Parma, sister to one of the pretenders to the Spanish throne. She told a committee of the US Senate what she saw. On the committee was Senator Edward Kennedy.
I told him how I have been going out of the BIAFRA, and that one of the last nights I was with the children and the plane was not coming. And we were very anxious, and I had in my arms a little girl of, I don't know, 10 years old. And she was very anxious herself to see if the plane would come and save her. And finally we hear the motor's engine, the plane is coming. She looked at me, she smiled, and she died. And I looked at Senator Edward Kennedy, and I saw he was crying.
BIAFRA made aid organisations throughout the world what they are today. It enabled them to develop and perfect their emergency feeding and rescue skills that have since then saved millions of lives around the world.
It was the school of humanitarian action, BIAFRA, so I think it was the beginning of a new concept of wars and of the relation between humanitarian personnel, armies, and the media.
Questions remain unanswered. Was it genocide? Was the bombing and strafing of civilians? Was the deliberate mass starvation of innocent men, women and children backed by the British government, willingly or unwillingly?
Now, if you listen to that woman, the woman that spoke was before the last man, she said something as she analyzed and explained the gruesome killing of Biafrans in a committee where Senator Kennedy, the former senator of America, was. She looked at Kennedy. Kennedy was crying. The American senator was crying. I don't know how you see this. I don't know how you visualize this. But no matter how we try to explain this, anytime I watch this video, I feel very pained, I feel very moody, I feel very, very angry, and I feel like something has to be done. And that is why it's so painful that most of our people will decide to sell what we're doing, sell our people, sell our collective interests, still want to collect money to kill. You can imagine human beings who work with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, knowing what he represents. He represents every of our interest. They decided to collect monies. Evidences are coming out everywhere. Collected monies to sell the man so that we will continue to suffer this kind of evil. How evil goes into people and they become evil to themselves. Now, these are shocking facts. But let me tell you something. We are going to overcome this. If you look at that video very well, you will see how evil that was. You saw those little children. You saw those parents. You saw what happened to our people. It was a hell. It was a time that nobody can quantify in the affairs of humanity. And of course, you heard the commentator or the underlying voice there. The voice said that the world didn't care. It was not important to them. It was one of those things happening in Africa. It was one of those things that they actually are looking at, as one of those things that happen in West Africa that doesn't concern them. They had other things in their plates. So it was actually a fundamental error that went on. I'm going to play another video, and I want you to listen to the extent, the things that led to that war, the statements and the conversations and the things people said that actually led to that and brought about this killing and this evil on our people. Because if we don't get the truth, if we don't exploit the truth, if we don't explore the truth, we'll continue to be the same way and we'll continue to be killed by these people. They are coming all out and they want to kill us. Listen to this.
One thing I've noticed, Premier, while I've been here, is that Northerners seem to have, I might almost call it, obsession about the Igbos. Could you perhaps explain that to me?
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they will try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, in the past, our people were not alive to their responsibilities, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by northerners.
Is this policy of filling all key posts in the north solely with northerners and not with other Nigerians a temporary or a permanent one?
In actual fact, what it is a northerner first. If you can't get a northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract. If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys who are now turning from all our learning institutions, coming out with having no work to do. I'm sure whichever government of the day might be, it will feel rather embarrassed, and it might even lead to bloodshed.
Doesn't this damage the idea, sir, of all people in all regions in Nigeria being fellow citizens of one country?
Well, it might, but you are, new to our region, but how many northerners are employed in the east or in the west? The answer is no. And if there are, there may be 10 laborers employed only in the two regions.
Now, did you listen to that conversation very well? Did you listen to it very well? The man specifically made mention of basic principles and laid down procedures that the British has designed with them. The northerner first, and then before you begin to talk about any other thing. Now, these were all set as a template to govern and control indigenous people. Now, the reason why you heard this interview, this other interview I'm going to play right now, is because of these policies. For these policies to be real and to continue, they needed to look elsewhere. They needed to make our stuff not a priority to them. Now listen to this other video.
A lot of attention on Twitter. A lot of people are saying, wait, where's the outrage of for what's going on in Nigeria? We saw 4 million people marching in the streets of Paris. We saw world leaders gathering there to sort of stand in solidarity with Paris. Where are those calls for the same kind of justice for the people of Nigeria? Help us understand the difference here and maybe why we're not hearing the same level of outrage. Or is there a reason?
Yeah, good morning, Michaela. Yeah, the issue is, the stark difference, isn't it? World leaders, very prominent, linking arms, walking the Champs-Élysées, complete solidarity against this and outrage against what happened in Paris, vis-a-vis what we see in Nigeria, which is truly not, it should not be surprising. Look, what's happening in Nigeria is barbarous. It's horrible. I mean, it's complete madness. Yet it's not a priority. The United States unilaterally could do almost anything it needs to do. It would be a long-term effort, but it could be done. And the United States has the capability. All the elements of power, we have those.
So why not?
Complete. It's not a priority. That's the problem. We are committed elsewhere in the world. Black West Africa is not a priority. Very stark, very hard to say, but that's the case right now.
Whenever I listen to that video, I'm just trying to, I've said so many things, I've discussed, I've analyzed these videos and all of this stuff, but I'm just trying to recap for you to understand why we're being killed and the things that are happening to us. The source of all this information, the source of all this process and these attacks and all of that. We have the fundamental revelation here, and from that video, you saw the analysis of the BIAFRA war. You saw the analysis of that man, Fulani man who was talking. I don't like calling their names on because you are giving them popularity. You saw the interview. He was saying that it is Fulanization and the Northerners first, the policy of Northernization. And of course, then if they want to get you involved, they just bring you as just pay you on contract. That is what they are doing to the politicians. from Biafra region, from Oduduwa. Those people who are actually working them are people who have been given, that platform to do that on their contract basis. They are actually not fully part of the people. They're actually not fully part of their Fulanization program. They are only there temporarily working for the purpose of that Fulanization program. That is the plan, that is the dictate, that is what they have designed. So in that realm, in that conclusion, in that plan, they use these saboteurs who are within us, who are inside of us, who are in our midst. They give them what they want as a contract. By the time it happens, when the time comes, when they achieve their Fulanization program completely, they will eliminate all of them, because they could not give them the position. That position belongs to a Fulani. But for them to get you now, they need to put these people at that position, so that these people will stay there as a takia to you, to deceive you that you actually have a position. For instance, if they give a man from the south a position as the Minister for Finance, somebody from Biafra land, Minister of Finance, they only put him there as a contract, preparing the ground when they are going to totally conquer us, and then they are going to take that position and give back to a Fulani man fully, because that's the program. So from what that Fulani man said, he said that every other thing, every position, every basic position must be occupied by the North. If he's saying the North, he's talking about the Fulanis. Now, when they occupy these positions, they will now, if they need the services, knowing that there are some things they cannot do because they know that they don't have the intelligence, they don't have the capacity and all of that. So for them to be able to do these things, they need some technical, approach or technical delivery or technical intervention from the people of Biafra land or Oduduwa land. They bring them into that place on contract basis. Now, if you listen well, they said they will never bring anybody from the Igbos. The Igbos here refer to Biafra. Now, but they're going to bring people they can bring people if after the Northerners have filled the whole positions, and there is a position for, that is very important, that they need somebody else who is not a Fulani, they will not bring somebody from maybe Oduduwa to fill it. But if they don't find anyone, first, before even they bring anybody from Oduduwa, they will bring somebody who's an expatriate. And if they don't get an expatriate to do the job, they get to somebody who's from the south. If they will bring anybody from the south, then it will be on contract basis, because the intention is for total conquest. The intention is for total conquest. Yes, we are getting our freedom by force and by fire. We are getting our freedom. So the intention is for total conquest. But if they would have to do for the meantime to occupy those positions, and if they need to bring other people into it, then they would have to put them on contract basis. So everybody you see occupying an office in the current Nigeria, who is from the south or from Biafra land, or who is an Igbo, is actually there on contract, because that position is not permanently for anybody from the south. It is meant for the Fulanis, but they would have to put them there so that they can execute their conquest of the people. By the time they have executed the conquest of the people, and they have totally taken over the control of our resources, our oil wells, our lands, taken over our lands, and infiltrated our positions with their people and our locations with their people, they will now begin to execute this thing proper. Let me give you an instance. If you go to Afghanistan today, the Taliban takes all the offices. Every office, every major office is controlled by the Taliban. That's it, because now they have taken over the power. They have taken over power completely. So what they're doing now is to hijack political power in all spheres, so that as soon as they conclude the hijacking of political power, they can now begin to impose their political positions on every sphere of it. For now, everyone who is functioning, and of course, somebody like Peter Obi who is coming to talk, that one is just there for contract. In a normal jihadist program, he's not going to even come out to even contest. They won't allow him. But they have to allow him now, because they are still conquering and to conquer. So allowing him now will help to deceive most people who can be deceived to think that it is an all-inclusive thing. But Fulanization program is not an all-inclusive thing. It is for total control. If you check all the jihadists and nations and all of that, you'll discover that once they take over power, they take over in totality the political positions, the economic positions, and all of that. They take them over. because that is the purpose. They have to hijack everything. But when they allow you, it is an allowance that is in the realm of their takia process, so that other people who are from the south will say, okay, we have our person here in this position, we have our person in this that position. Now putting our people in one position and all of that gives some people, makes some people get some people deceived. That is why you see some of our people screaming for election, because they see, okay, he did here, he did something here, so he has done it well, so let's put him here. Even if we know that, one, they don't do anything well. Even if we know that they will go there and they will not do anything, they cannot function, because they have to run according to the dictates and the program of the Fulanis, of their template, and of the plan of the Sultan, and of the Sokoto Caliphate. So you must understand this basically. All these videos I've played now expressly reveals and explains the concept of Fulanization. That is why the West is not looking. That is why the West will pretend not to see. That is why the West doesn't take it as a priority, because they know that it is better if Fulani takes over, so that they know that they have taken over. Then they will be getting their own interest. And when they're getting their own interest, everything goes on fine. So if the Fulanis are killing you to take over what belongs to you, to them, it is not their interest. To them, the most important thing is the preservation of their expectation, their thieving, their stealing, preservation of that, their antics to steal from us. That is why we must rise up and take back what belonged to us. You saw the massacre. You have seen the videos of massacre. You saw the video I just played now. I decided to use the video of the Civil War in totality, because Asaba massacre is part of the Civil War. I decided to use a video that covers the totality of the Civil War, so that you can see more of the definition and the details that actually affected the total killing of Biafrans, that have been Biafrans being killed. Even the women riot, the women that were killed in 1929, they were killed. Hundreds of them were killed because they were fighting to stop them from taking over their resources, their businesses. What caused the fighting? What caused the riot? They just installed. Now, I told you yesterday, I'm going to be preaching this more. This evening we're going to be having joint media broadcast, so I will not come up on this fella preaching, fella analysis, analyzing that. But when I come up tomorrow in that regard, I'm going to explain to you why these people, how these people, the strategy they utilize to actually take over what belongs to other people. I will explain to you, and I'll show it to you, in that about women riot, and at the same time in the fella song. I'm going to play fella song live tomorrow. That song that gives us messages of the philosophy of fella and the prophecies he made. The man who saw tomorrow, but people are looking down on him because he's not wearing suit as a pastor somewhere. When God gives people ability to speak, these are few people who actually did something with their talent, using it as a project of sending messages and preaching the gospel of freedom and redemption to the people. But if you're not wearing suit and standing on one pulpit and talking, they don't take you seriously. But these people spoke with their music. They spoke so many important things. Some of them, of course, were not even musicians. Some of them were in other regards. Like somebody like Martin Luther King. It's people who preached and propagated the gospel. He was a preacher, a pastor, but he was on the street for to do to free themselves and all of that. These are the things I'm going to be talking about, looking at. These are legends. Today we have so many youths. I see the corruption has been, now you see what is happening now. They have decided to begin to use the entertainment industry as a means of just entertainment rather than information. Those days, the entertainment industry was fully ignited with information. But these days, all you see is just dance. The songs makes no sense because they want to misdirect the young people. They want to make them, keep them out of focus. They want to keep them out of objective reasoning and all of that, just to keep them away from practical things that concerns them. So that in the end, before they open their eyes, they will see that they have landed themselves in Fulani contraption and Fulani, program or Fulani nation. And then that is too late for them. So the distractors allowing us to sponsor their companies and all of that are sponsoring rubbish. How many of you heard of any of them sponsoring any song that is activist, an activist has done, or any song that is of activism? Have you ever heard of them sponsor any kinds of song like that? Have you ever heard of any company signing Fela Nicola Kokuti as a label, to sing against the government, or any company signing him You don't hear of those things because those people are speaking the mind of the people and also fighting against the evil that has come to take the people, to plague the people. They will not sponsor them. They will always sponsor things that will corrupt the minds of the people and distract them. That is what they do. The awards they give are to those people who are distracting others. That is what the government do. That is what they do. That's what the government agencies do. That is what we need to change in this our dispensation. I'll be talking more on that tomorrow. But I want you to understand, as I'm concluding this talking, this is the last part, it's part 4 of the Asaba massacre. Today is the climax of the day that we're looking at this. I want you to reminisce, pray for those, the families of those who died. Pray for yourself because they are still coming. They are still wanting to attack. Pray for the quick redemption of God's people, the quick redemption and bringing actualization of Biafra nation. Pray for the release of our leader very quickly, because the evil plans against him are too much. What they are plotting, the evils they're doing, we know all of that, but we are holding him in the realm of the spirits as much as he is praying also. They can't do anything to him. They can't bring him down. They can't destroy him. We have control of his position spiritually. But you have to keep praying. We have to keep praying. We have to keep praying. And then we keep doing what we have to do. The instructions that we are told, mandated to obey and follow. Please, you have to keep to these things. Because for the people who have died and the horror of the death, of all these deaths that have happened to our people, the honor of these people and the honor of the principle they stood for, of the honor of what they died for, must be preserved. And it will be preserved in our generation. That is why you have to sit at home when you are told to sit at home. That is why you have to support ESN when you are told to support ESN. That is why you have to do everything you have to do for the sake of preserving the issues of our collective interest, the issue of our freedom, because this is what they died for. The Asaba massacre didn't just happen. It happened because we were Biafrans. You heard the documentary there. It says they were killed simply because they were Igbos. When they say Igbos, you know what I'm talking about. They're talking about Biafrans. So they were killed because they were Igbos. They were killed because they were Biafrans. They were killed because they were different. Because they were killed because they were intelligent. They were killed because they were unique. They were killed because they actually have this leadership quality. Whenever, anywhere they go, they can easily, lead and take over. They saw it as domination. Of course, we're told to dominate and the world, but Igbos don't actually come to dominate anybody. They dominate the world, and the world they are called into to dominate. They don't come to dominate any tribe or any tongue or any nation. They just there to propagate the domination of the earth and the resources of the earth by the control using their gifting, their talent, and everything that they represent. So that is the most important thing you have to understand. The concept of freedom is only in the doctrine of obedience and adherence to the principles of the spirit and direction. So you must understand, these killings will not come to us, but if they will not come to us, we must play our role. What is our role? We must avoid election, we must obey instructions, and then we must be prayerful to make sure that everything that is planned to stop the Nigeria contraption must be executed. Remember, 2023 is the deadline for anything Nigeria exists to exist. 2023 is the deadline, and the mandate is in our hands. Your simple obedience, your simple sacrifice, like sitting at home, will help to propagate this gospel, will help to fulfill this cause and this mandate. You must understand your role, and you must play according to the dictates of instruction that you are given, because that sitting at home is very significant. You sitting at home alone is very significant to what we're doing. It's very significant. It's where Hank says, just imagine how jealous they are about we, the Biafrans. Obviously, you can see it. Obviously, you can see everything lined out in the video. I just decided not to interrupt it so that people can listen to it. I've been interrupting it all this while in part 1, in part 2, part 3. I interrupt and explain. But now I have to play it through and just give you a summary, because this is the closing, teaching for this Asaba massacre and all of that. But of course, we'll be talking more on the civil war and the issues that affects us, which will help us to get out of the grip of slavery. We cannot remain slaves. We have to be free. And it takes courage and strength to be free. Courage and strength. Remember, God told Joshua, be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee wherever you go, whithersoever thou goest. So we have our God with us. He is with us. But the courage to go is what we must determine by the strength he has given to us. What is the strength he has given to us? Everything you need to do now is a strength to the force of freedom. So you must understand these things and operate in this knowledge. I beg you, dear friends, this is the time to rise. This is the time to take our freedom. This is the time to get our mandates back. I have to make this broadcast and brief as this. It's just the conclusion part of the horrors and of the Asaba killings. And I've played the videos. I'm going to play one more video that will tell you some stuff that you need to know. And then we're going to round off this in the next few seconds. So watch this video also. And
the world is slow in understanding.
Very, very slow indeed. In fact, I was so surprised that the world could be so slow in thinking. I never knew that man could be like this. I had always thought that man is a reasonable, understanding creature that feels the woes, the troubles of others. But I didn't know that man, especially those who are in power, those who rule, that they could be so wicked and so hardened that they cannot just feel the trouble, the woes of others, and that they could just determine to starve a whole people and to kill a whole people. Well, the world is so slow in understanding.
Biafra is at the moment experiencing jungle justice, which is the justice of might is right, because we're under an economic blockade, we're under a propaganda blockade, we're under a diplomatic blockade. Nobody sees what we are suffering, nobody hears what we are suffering, and as a result of that, the wrong story is presented to the world. We are not heard, and therefore we cannot be judged except on the basis of the lies being told about us. When we have been able to overcome this jungle justice and we are heard, then we will then get the civilized justice, because our case will be brought into the open. And once a case is in the open, you cannot play tricks. We are now victims of blackmail because we are being suppressed, we are being muzzled.
But you still fight on.
We fight on, oh yes, Biafra fights on.
How long have you been in Africa, sister?
11 years in all.
What do you think of this whole situation?
I think it's just terrible, terrible now. There's so many innocent people, so many civilians being killed. It is tragic, really.
We fight on because we must get our freedom. You heard that. You heard him say, we fight on. Cyprian McCoy. He said, we fight on. And that's what we are doing now. Thank you, Princess Amaka. Thumbs up for you, Mr. Kelechi. You are very good in what you do. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for that compliment. And I appreciate you for joining me. Thank you so much. I'm rounding off this right now. I'm going to play the video of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. This is the victory. I want to proclaim the video of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and the victory. And then we're going to play that to douse the tension inside of us. We are ready to get to our freedom. It's so painful that some people have died. So painful that some people will still die. But we are getting our freedom. And we'll all get there. You and I will see Biafra. Is the victory we are looking forward to, and we are going to get there. As Mazi Nnamdi Kanu raised his hands there and people were screaming, we are going to remember the day. We're using this as a means of remembering the day we're going to lift our hands together. All of us all over the globe in diaspora will return to our land, will jubilate, will rejoice on the streets of Biafra. This is our desire. You can imagine how sweet that day will be. And that's why we have to do what we have to do now to make sure we get there. That's why what you do is very, very important. That's why what you do is very crucial. That's why you must understand this and do and play your role. We will all rejoice and we will celebrate. Please, let's make it possible. That is, I look forward to seeing you in the new Biafra, hugging you, kissing you, embracing you, and being happy that we are together. Together we have seen a nation, a new nation, where we have our sovereignty and our constitution. Thank you for joining me. My name is Kelechi Ambrose. Please subscribe to this channel, like the video, send to all your social media platforms, tell them to subscribe and tell them to watch and spread this good news. I see you tomorrow with a bombshell. It's going to be very revealing tomorrow, 1 p.m. Biafra time. You will not want to miss it. Just watch and hope to get it. Thank you so much for being part of this. May God bless you. All hail Biafra. What a